Good afternoon, Exit Affinity agents. Hey, Glade McCombs, and I just wanted to share with you how you go about running comps on a property. The property that we're going to run comps on is actually a property that I had under contract for a buyer up in Layton. And this property has been on the market for 41 days, although it was actually put on the market back in August of last year. And so it's been priced a little high, and we found out that the whole roof was going to have to be replaced, so we actually canceled our contract because they would not negotiate any kind of a concession on the roof. But if you can look at this property, this went on the market in August of 2019 for $685,000, and they have now reduced the price. This is when our offer went in, and they put it active with a time clause, and we ultimately canceled the offer. But it is for sale now for $634,900. What I want to do is show you how I ran comps when I gave them to the client. And so I'll run you through the whole process. It's very helpful to have a listing information or some kind of information on the property before you run the comps. And so since we have an MLS on this, this is very helpful. If you do not have an MLS, you can search for a tax ID number, which you do by going up here to search and then tax data search. But since we have that, if you had to pull up the tax ID data, you would go here or put in the search for a tax ID number, and you can look up property information. And this is critical that you have the information to run comps on for the comparable property. So we'll go back to the listing, and I will show you how to run comps. So you can open up a new tab up here that will duplicate the tab that you just had open. And what we will do is we'll go up here to search quick. Now this is the best way I found to run comps. And so we'll clear this criteria that came up in a previous search. And you can go to search status, and you want to go to sold properties. So what appraisers use for search criteria is they use properties that have been sold. That's the most critical data that they look at. Now, the time frame that's ideal is to go 90 days. So we want to look at properties that have sold in the last 90 days, and we'll see if in this area around that house that we're going to run comps on, if properties have sold in the last 90 days. This is a single family home, so we'll select that under property type, and we'll select style. It is a 2-story home. And then the other criteria that we want to add is what year was the property built. Now, what appraisers use is they will go 10 years each way of the build date. So this property was built in 1995. It has an effective year build of 1999, but we'll use that. We'll come back to that later. Right now, we want to look at 95. So what appraisers will do is they will go 10 years either way of the build date. So if it was built in 1995, we're going to put in 1985 then as our start year. And we're going to put in 2005 as our end year. Now that's pretty much all of the data that we need in the selection fields here. The next step is we will go to view map. What we want to do is we want to grid around that property because that's the most important data to look at, is what properties have sold in the surrounding area over the past 90 days. Now you can do a search right here. And if you go to this bent arrow, it will take you to jump to property, and we'll put that in. Now we can very quickly, I'll just copy this address, and that is going to be the map search data. So we'll paste that in. That is in Layton, so I'll add that, and then we go jump to property. So that will take us right to the specific property location. So that's the exact house, and we're going to zoom out a little bit here. Now, what is important to understand is that appraisers for their data do not go across major highways. And so we're going to stay on the east side of 89, and 89 is certainly a major highway. We would not want to cross that. So let's zoom out just a little bit more. Now I know this area, and so this property, these homes all along the east side of 89 are very similar, and a lot of them are in the same build year. So you have a couple of tools available up here to draw grids. You can use this polygon tool, which is a pencil that you just draw a section around the map. You can use this point-click polygon tool, and that's my favorite one and the one that I use most often, or you can use this rectangle tool. We're going to go to the point-click polygon tool, and it will bring up crosshairs. And now what you just need to do is we're going to draw a line all the way down Highway 89. We want to stay north of Fruit Heights. So we're going to just kind of make a little grid here, and then you double click to close the grid. Oops, for some reason that didn't take, so we'll do that again. Let me zoom out just a little bit more. So we're going to do again the grid, and then we'll just draw it all the way down, and then we'll go right here to the mountain. And then once that's closed, you can see there's only one property. This property, you can click on it. This was sold for $542,000. We really want to have at least 3 properties. So I don't really want to change my grid, but what I can change is how recently the property changed. So we'll go up here and we'll hide the map. And then I'm going to change here, and let's go out 180 days and see what happens. So now we have 2 properties. I'd really like to have at least 1 more. So we can just kind of slowly increment this date. And let's go to 280. Now the good thing about this time of year is we can go back a little further because the winter months are slower in Utah, so not as many properties sell, and the prices are not quite as high. So this is okay to go back that far. And you can see now we have 4 properties. So we will stay with that, and we'll click View Results up here. And this will bring up all of the properties that we will compare against. We'll click here to select all the properties. Then you go over here to View Reports and hit the drop down, and you will go to CMA Report. Now when CMA Report comes up, it brings this grid. So here is a blank for our subject property. We'll fill that in just a second. But these are the comparable properties. There's 3 here on the top, and then there's another one down here at the bottom. It shows you all of the critical information that would be viable and important in working up comparable properties. So it shows you sale date, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, sold price, list price, as well as all the square footage data. And then it has year built down here. So we'll populate the subject data, and we do that by going here and we click on that. Now you can either populate the subject data by MLS, or you can populate it by tax ID number. It's more efficient if we use MLS if we have an MLS listing available. So if you're comparing against a property, if your subject property is one that you're working with a buyer, for example, on, it's helpful if you can go back and pull previous MLS data and then put that in here. Since we have a current listing on that property that we were looking at, I'll just take and copy that MLS information right here. And then I'll plug it into this field, and then we hit go, and that will populate, including with pictures and all of the listing data, all of the information pertinent to that subject property. So you can see right here that that property shows a comparable value of $589,501. Now, how did it come to that number? Well, what it does is it takes that subject property and it compares it against these other properties. Now, you know from your real estate classes that the way that we adjust properties is we adjust the comparable properties to match the subject. So what this tool has already done for us is it has already adjusted bedrooms, bathrooms, square footage, all of this data. So all of these numbers shown in these columns are adjustments that the tool has already made for us. So you can see this property, they've adjusted to a 5-bedroom, this was a 5-bedroom house, so they've added $1,000 to add another bedroom. Over here, this was a 4-bedroom house, so they've had to add 2 bedrooms for a total of $2,000. So all of these adjustments have already been made, including adjustments for garage capacity, how many cars will fit in the garage, square footage, as well as acreage. So you can see that this is a larger lot of 0.47. So it has added $43,560 to make an adjustment against these other properties. And it has as well adjusted these other properties to try to be comparable. So once we have looked at that data, We can pull here from the MLS if we want to look at pictures and look at those other comparable properties. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and we're going to go create CMA packet right here at the top. If we click create CMA packet, that will bring up a blank cover sheet. And I always like to put in the customer's name here. So the customer that I was working with is a guy by the name of Thomas White. I'll put in his name. And then down here, I'm going to insert our brokerage logo. And I've already loaded a logo in. So if we scroll up to the top here, it will show image upload. And I can select, I've already got our logo loaded into my file. You just click on that and that will insert that data. So that now gives me a decent looking cover sheet. Now the typical sheets that I will do when I print off for a client is I will print off the cover sheet. I will print off the full comparable details. I will pull up comp photos, the comparison report, the summary analysis, and the map report. And the way that you print those off for a client is you go up here to print PDF or email. I usually print these off and take them bound to my clients. And I'll go print PDF, and it will load that data, and it will load all of the pictures into the report. This usually ends up being about a 20-25 page report. But my clients find it very helpful. I take it over to them and I explain it to them when I deliver it to them so that they understand it. You don't want to just hand this to them. This is something that you want to explain to them and how it comes up with those figures and information. So here is our professional report. And you can see that it shows the cover page first. And then this is all the comparable data for properties that have sold. So this is the first one, and all 4 properties that we pulled up are here. And then after that, it shows the photos in the same order as it shows the listing information. And as we scroll down past all of those photos, so these photos are very helpful because if you're working with a buyer or if you're working with a seller, they can see how those comparable properties match the subject property. As we scroll all the way to the bottom past the photos, it will give us a little summary sheet. And here is our side-by-side analysis that we looked at before. So this shows all of the adjustments that have been made, showing the comparable price. So this is what that house should sell for, $589,501. Now we know that houses are selling a little higher than they comp out right now. And so we'd add, if I was representing a seller, I would likely add some dollars to that and probably be closer to a $600,000 price tag for that house. But it shows all of those, and it shows a summary analysis of the property, showing how many sold listings or what the average was of the sold listings, total averages, price per square foot, and then it shows the individual properties. What was the original list price, sold price, combined days on market, how much change from the original to the list price to the sold, and then it shows any concessions. Now this is important to understand because you can see this top property had $8,100 in concessions. This one had $7,000. That should be taken into account when you're coming up with comparable values. Then it will show a map report of where all of these properties were located, including kind of a summary of data of where that property is located and what the price range was on that property. A is always the subject property. So you can see these were all fairly close to our subject property. So that's how you run comparable reports. This is very effective and very helpful for understanding pricing for your clients. Now, looking up at this property again then, we had a price tag, it came up with comparables of $589,501. So you can see that this property that we looked at the beginning is certainly high compared to the other properties, especially when you consider that the roof needs to be replaced on this property. I hope that helps you as you work up comparables for customers and as you go and meet with potential listing clients. As always, please let me know if you have any questions, and look forward to talking with you soon. Have a great day.